Listening Comprehension Part 2. You are going to hear an article. First you will have 1 minute to read the introduction and the items. Then you will hear the article. You will hear it only once. Then you will have time to answer the questions. Decide if the statement for each of the items is true, plus, or not true, minus, and mark your answers on the answer sheet. Now you will have 1 minute to read the items.
Some 17,000 changes have been made since the previous edition of the National Geographic Atlas of the World. With the new edition now on sale, Chief Cartographer Alan Carroll tells us what's involved in tracking a world where the only constant is change. How do you stay on top of all the changes in the world?
We have a hard-working research staff that keeps careful track of a rapidly changing world in many ways. We use multiple sources within academia, government and the international community, but we make the final decisions ourselves, weighing these many sources in an effort to be as accurate, authoritative and objective as possible.
Why are there so many changes, and what kinds of changes are they?
There are all kinds of changes. Many have to do with a growing and shifting population. For instance, as cities grow, we often need to adjust the size of the town spot and the place name label to reflect a larger population. Sometimes a country using a non-Western alphabet will change how they write a name. Remember when Peking became Beijing? That sort of thing happened recently in South Korea, leading to changes for a great number of towns and cities. For the most part, natural and physical features haven't changed nearly as much as the human ones. But the Aral Sea in Central Asia has shrunk dramatically. That change is caused in part by human activities, though.
How can people keep their atlases up to date?
Our 8th edition is the only world atlas with a fully integrated website. Atlas buyers receive a username and a password and have access to a content-rich website on which they can browse every one of the atlas's political maps, email maps to friends, order large format prints, and even find updated information.
Borders, names and even countries can be hotly disputed. How does National Geographic decide who's right?
We work very, very hard to represent the world objectively, fairly and accurately. That means if a country has occupied a piece of territory for some time, we show it as under that country's control, without making judgments about whether that occupation is right or not.
How is it that the world's highest and lowest points have changed over the past 5 years?
We show Mount Everest as 8,850 metres above sea level. In the 7th edition, it was 8,848 metres. As far as we know, Everest didn't actually grow. It was measured more accurately using the latest global positioning system technology.
The atlas includes more than just political and physical maps. Biodiversity and conflict and terror are just a few of the thematic maps. Tell us more about these kinds of maps.
We extensively revised and expanded the thematic maps to extend the scope of the atlas and to bring more vital and relevant information to our readers. We also tried to make these pages as dramatic and colourful as we could. A personal favourite of mine is Wildlands, which shows that a surprising 11.5% of the Earth's land surface is under some kind of protection. Another favourite, on a much less happy topic, is conflict and terror. More than a quarter of the world's nations have experienced significant warfare in the past 15 years.
Could you mention a few new features of the latest edition of the Atlas of the World?
The 8th edition contains 17,000 updates and editorial changes since the 7th edition, published 5 years ago. The Dead Sea, Earth's lowest point, has dropped 8 metres due to increased human water consumption in the region. Timor, the first new nation of the 21st century, is mapped for the first time. Many new national parks around the world are shown. Calcutta, India, has changed its name to Kolkata. A new symbol indicating high-speed railroads has been added. New airports, ferry routes, bridges, tunnels and railroads around the world are also shown. and spaceports, any place from where a spacecraft has been launched into orbit, are now marked.
Thank you, Mr. Carroll, for the interview.